All right. Well, to be respectful of everyone's time, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome. I'm Ryan Hansen. I'm Associate Professor at the Choice Institute at the University of Washington and our Director of Master's Fellowship Programs. And we are here tonight to present to you an informational session about our HEOR fellowships in preparation for our upcoming application cycle. So we will be going through a little introduction of HEOR, talk about our fellowship programs that we offer at the University of Washington, discuss briefly our industry partners in those fellowship programs, spend a little bit of time just walking you through the application process, and then finally do some Q&A. And just as a reminder, we ask, this is an open Zoom, so we ask you keep your microphone muted and submit questions in the chat box. And we look forward to seeing your questions. And with that, I'm going to turn this over. The majority of the content is going to be delivered by our current second year fellows. So that you get a chance to hear directly from people who have lived this experience. So take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jacob Silvers, and I'm currently the second year fellow with UW and CGen, and I'm living it, like Ryan said. So to get us started, I wanted to talk about what HEOR in industry is. So basically, it is taking evidence from safety and efficacy and taking it one step further and showing value in medications or medical technologies. So sometimes efficacy and safety is sufficient, but a lot of times value is necessary to get medication access. Next slide, please. Here we can see some of the categories of where value can be generated. So burden of illness, efficacy, real world evidence, patient-centered outcomes, or economic value and affordability. And underneath those are really the techniques of how value is shown. So for example, if you're trying to have a medication in a new space or one where there's not a lot of medications, you might want to show a gaps in care or novelty for a burden of illness. Or if you're trying to get approval in a European market, you're probably going to be very reliant on a cost effectiveness analysis for value. Next slide, please. And this is kind of a diagram showing where you'll be as an HEOR worker, which is right in the center of real world evidence, economic evaluation, and patient-reported outcomes. And during this fellowship, you would learn skills to show value and evidence in all of these areas. Next slide, please.
All right, I'll take it over from here. Hey everyone, my name is TJ. I'm the current second year fellow with UW and AbbVie. And I will present this portion. Next slide. So here we have the Choice Institute. This is the institute that is part of the University of Washington, and it's housed within the School of Pharmacy at UW. And this fellowship is really a combination of industry as well as your training at the Choice Institute. The Choice Institute has a mission with 3 pillars. Those 3 pillars are research, and those relates to things such as effectiveness, safety, and value for medical products. Second pillar is training, and this is training for didactic coursework and really to solidify your HEOR skill set in outcomes research as well as policy analysis. And then the third pillar is service. And that's really for you to be a leading resource on effectiveness, safety, and the value of medical products after your training and in the field of HEOR in general afterwards. Next slide, please. Here are some of the faculty that you may be working with during your Choice Fellowship. These are some of our distinguished faculty that serve as the main faculty members for each fellow. That's not to say that this is a comprehensive list. There are other faculty members, as well as PhD advisors and other professors that you may interact with during your time at this fellowship. However, these are the main faculty advisors. Next slide, please. This is a brief overview of the history of the fellowship program. This program has been in effect for many years now, and the companies have changed over the years with some additions, some subtractions, and whatnot, and some have stayed the same. But this is an overview. We've had 37 fellows since 2007. Of those fellows, we've had 40 publications in peer-reviewed journals, as well as 74 abstracts presented as posters or podiums at conferences and congresses and whatnot. So really you see that this program has a rich history. Next slide, please. Our fellowship is structured into 2 separate years. So the first year, you will be mainly focused at the University of Washington, earning your master's degree in HEOR. And this is really taking didactic coursework. So you will be a student again, as well as a fellow. And you'll be taking courses in biostatistics, epidemiology, and economic and evaluation and outcomes research. You'll also complete a master's thesis during your first year, and that's a requirement for your graduation. And this thesis project will be conducted underneath your faculty advisor, as well as in collaboration with your industry mentors at your affiliate company. You also have the opportunity to present your projects at posters, as well as publish manuscripts. And at the end of the first year, you earn your master's degree in HEOR. During the second year, you'll be spending all of your time at the affiliate industry, pharmaceutical company, and you'll be placed on a team, and really the experience can be varied depending on which company you go to, but you'll really be diving deep into the industry role as it pertains to HEOR. Next slide, please. This is an overview of the industry affiliate pharmaceutical industries that are part of this program. So at the top, we have the University of Washington, that's in Seattle. We have Genentech, as well as AbbVie and Neurocrine in California, and Bayer, which is located in New Jersey. Next slide, please. So once again, this is a breakdown of the different positions and affiliate companies for the fellowship program. As mentioned, your first year is going to be at the University of Washington in Seattle. For your second year, there are a total of 6 positions at 4 different companies, 1 position for Bayer, 2 for AbbVie, 2 for Genentech, and 1 for Neurocrine. And depending on the company, you may be focused on US HEOR or global HEOR. That's company specific. And at the bottom, eligibility for this program is students who have a degree in pharmacy, as well as experience in HEOR. Next slide, please. And I'll turn it over to Kim to talk about the AbbVie specific information.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kim. I'm the other UW AbbVie Fellow. And just to give a bit of overview about the UW AbbVie Fellowship itself. So our faculty mentor is Beth Devine. She's been the faculty mentor for, I believe, since the beginning of the fellowship at UW, when it was with Allergan, now Legacy Allergan, currently AbbVie. And the AbbVie point of contact is Amy Tung, who is also a previous UW Legacy Allergan / AbbVie fellow. Next slide. And so our current fellows, so the first years are Annalisa and Gina, who are currently starting their first year. They just started in July. And as TJ previously said, he's also a UW AbbVie second year fellow in addition to me. Next slide. And so the therapeutic areas and projects that we cover in our fellowship. So the therapeutic areas you can see listed on the left. So just for a bit of personal example, I'm currently working in the neurology department, and TJ is currently working in toxin therapeutics, but these can change year by year. So for example, our first years are working in aesthetics and ophthalmology. And then some of the projects that you'll be doing at your second year can be with patient-reported outcome validation, real-world evidence, and also creating dossiers, both US-based and global, in addition to working on economic modeling, such as budget impact and markup modeling. And next slide. And now turning it over to Gilbert.
Hi, my name is Gilbert Coe. I'm the second year Bayer Fellow, and I'll be giving an overview of just the Bayer Fellowship. And so on the UW, on the choice side, the faculty advisor is Ryan Hansen. And then on the Bayer side, in your second year, you'll be working with the within the data generation and observational studies team, also called DGOS. And on this side, on the Bayer side, you'll have 2 managers, Sheldon Kong, who is the head of research strategy, and Rakesh Singh, who is the director for the cardio-renal portfolio at Bayer. So Rakesh is more of the day-to-day manager point of contact, while Sheldon is more of the strategic, longitudinal manager. But they both work pretty well together to help fulfill all the needs and requirements of a fellow. Next slide, please. And so on this slide is Sandy Lee, who is the first year fellow, and of course, me as the second year fellow. The first year and second year fellows don't really interact much formally during the first and second year, except for monthly meetings with Ryan, with Sheldon, Rakesh, as well as Jennifer Cameron, who is the Director for Operations, as well as the VP of DGOS, Todd Williamson. So that's a pretty good strategy, or a pretty good opportunity for the fellows to kind of interact with the VP once a month over a 2 years time span. Next slide, please. And shown on this slide is just the therapeutic areas that Bayer is involved in, cardiorenal, especially with the recent launch of finerenone for CKD, oncology, women's health, cardiopulmonary, hematology, and other early pipeline drugs. I'm personally involved more in oncology as well as in women's health and a bit of cardiorenal with finerenone. And then on the right side are the projects that past fellows and current fellows have worked on or are currently working on. In the past, fellows have worked on data visualization dashboards, both for internal and external purposes, which I haven't really gotten to do this year yet, but we'll see. As well as real-world evidence studies, which I'm currently working on, I believe, 4 right now. And then as well as AMCP dossiers, budget impact models, and cost effectiveness analysis, which are usually linked to product launches, which I'm hopefully will be working on sometime soon this year. And then of course, systematic literature reviews, both informal as well as formally for actual studies. And that's it for Bayer. Let's go on to the next slide for Genentech.
Hi everyone, my name is Eunice Kim. I'm a second-year fellow with UW Genentech. For our first slide here, we have the UW preceptors who are on the left, David Veenstra and Zachary Markham. They're mostly, we have 2 Genentech UW fellows, and so the 4 of us met every week or so for about an hour discussing what's going on and just mentoring us throughout the first year. And then the second year, we have separate mentors, but the main contact point for Genentech would be Jennifer Whiteley, who's head of the E4A, or Evidence for Access, which is sort of, colloquially the HEOR team, and leads the neuroscience and rare disease team under US Medical Affairs. Next slide, please. So our current fellows, our first years are Justin and Tommy, and our second years are myself and Jenny. Next slide. And so some therapeutic areas, currently Evidence for Access E4A, which is our HEOR department, houses a lot of therapeutic areas stemming from oncology all the way to rare disease. My first year, I worked in hemophilia, which is under rare blood disorders. And Jenny worked on Alzheimer's, which is under neuroscience. I actually switched over and I'm currently working on ophthalmology. It's pretty flexible, and I think your second year, my preceptor in particular just sort of wanted me to be where there was a greater business need, as well as like an optimization of my learning objectives. On the right side, we have some projects that past fellows have also worked on. This is not exhaustive. It's more like whatever's going on. As a second year fellow, you'll be touching a lot of different projects, from real world studies to access materials to models if closer to launch, and then some other things that are going on are exciting and you can show interest. So this is just a little snapshot of what's available, but definitely not exhaustive. And you can always communicate sort of what you're interested in learning and what's going on at the team to be able to curate your own particular experience. And I think that's it for me.
Thanks, Eunice. So I'm going to just briefly touch on our newest fellowship program. Those of you who have been following our fellowships know that we launched a fellowship with GSK this past year and have our first fellow in that program that's going through that. And so we're not recruiting on the GSK fellowship this year so that we get that fellow through a complete experience. But we are recruiting for a brand new fellowship in our program, as was mentioned, with Neurocrine Biosciences down in San Diego. This fellowship is going to be working with myself as well as our Dean, Sean Sullivan, on the UW side, and then with Chuck Yonan, Mallory Farrar, and Michael Serbin, who are both UW grads down on the neurocrine side. If you're not familiar with neurocrine, but can probably draw from the name, they are in the neuroscience space. And so the primary therapeutic areas will be in their several rare disease neurology clinical areas. And we are working through contracting with them right now. And so the application cycle may be slightly behind, but we do have that, I believe, open on the website, and we'll be talking about that here next. This is just a listing of our recent alumni and where they've landed, just to give you a sense of where our fellows go. We have, I think, a fantastic track record with all of our fellows going all the way back to 2007. And ones who aren't listed on here, we've had a couple that have actually come back to earn a PhD and then move on to academia careers. So really a fantastic track record of success. And our goal is that every one of our fellows gets a job in industry or somewhere in our field, because there are many places for our fellows to land. All right, talk next about the application process.
All right, so moving on to the application process, I'm Jenny Park, a second-year Genentech fellow, and Brian, if you could move on to the next slide, I'm going to go into a little bit of the logistics of how you can apply for the fellowship. All P4s expecting their Form Ds prior to July 1st of next year are eligible to apply for our program, and the deadline to submit is October 29th of this year. After you apply, interview notifications will go out November 3rd, and people will have roughly 5 days to prepare for their interview before interviews start on the week of November 8th. Those who get an offer will be notified by November 12th. So it's a pretty fast timeline. And the official start date for the fellowship will be July 1st of next year. Next slide, please. So every year, applicants are pretty curious about some tips that we have for our applicants. And the #1 tip is to contact your recommenders early. A lot of us recommend that you include a cheat sheet kind of explaining a little bit more about yourself, as well as some details about the program, and explain to your recommenders why you think you're a good fit for the program. That way they can kind of cater your letter of recommendations instead of the letters being more general. And then you definitely want to make sure you submit a strong, focused, and well-edited CV. You want to make sure that your CV includes all of the experience you have with research, data analysis, your rotations, electives, courses, presentations, as well as any of your leadership experiences. Don't forget to highlight any projects, especially relevant to HEOR, that show why you might be a good fit for the program, as well as to show how to differentiate yourself a little bit from the other applicants. Thank you emails go a long way, and just remember, it could be a very stressful time, but just relax, be calm, and be yourself. Next slide, please. So this year, again, we won't be going through PPS. Instead, you guys will all be applying through the UW Graduate School website, which is linked on this slide here. And then I think if you go to the next slide, we can kind of walk you through what the application actually looks like. So this application, like I said before, due October 29th, is you can apply for all of the different industries partnering with UW through this website. You have to make sure that when you're applying, you select all of the companies that you're interested in, and don't be worried, it's not a rank of, you don't have to prioritize which ones, just tell us which programs you're interested in and you'll be considered for those companies. Next slide, please. There is an $85 fee, which is due when with your application prior to October 29th. However, next slide, please. There is a fee waiver for those who need it. And please, if you're planning on applying for the fee waiver, just make sure that you request it at least 7 days before the deadline. Next slide, please. All right, moving on to questions.
Okay, I can help lead the Q&A. My name is Marina. I'm the graduate program manager for Choice, and I've been in email contact with a lot of you, so nice to see some familiar names in the attendee list here. Next slide. Okay, so we have compiled here some common questions based on what we've been asked previously and what some folks have asked during the registration. So what I'm going to do is just read out the questions, and then if I could ask our panelists to just chime in and share their feedback on those answers. We've also received some questions in the chat box, so if you have any others that have popped up, you can type them in and we'll address those questions as well. Okay, so one common question is, what are characteristics you're looking for in a candidate for our fellowship program? Ryan?
Sure, I can start, and then I think the fellows have some good answers to this as well. I think the biggest key to success in this program are people with strong analytic skills. As we described the program, it's very fast-paced, and earning a master's degree in a year where you're taking a lot of courses that move quickly, have demands on your analytic abilities. I think that we look for people who have those skills and the ability to jump right into those courses. And then the other would be, a very strong passion for the field of HEOR. We're looking to work with candidates who really want to participate in the field and with the industry partners and be active participants. And so looking for people who have demonstrated abilities and interest in HEOR would be the second thing.
I'll add a bit to that. So going hand in hand with what Ryan said, and having a strong analytical skill set is also the ability to communicate that, whether to whoever you're talking to or to your relevant stakeholders. If you can do the best research, but you can't communicate it or present it to who you need to, then it doesn't really get you very far. So definitely being able to communicate your research. And I think during the interview process, you'll have the opportunity to showcase this when you talk about relevant experiences that are listed on your CV. So definitely practice being able to talk about what's on your CV and make sure you do know what's on your CV.
Awesome. Thank you, both of you. We've gotten some questions about what the format of our program will be, whether it will be remote or in person. We are planning for this to be an in-person program for next year. I know that right now some of our second-year fellows are still remote or either coming into the office a few days a week, as is the situation with UW. Even as a staff member, we're kind of hybrid right now. But I think the plan is for us to be in person next year. Does that sound right, Ryan?
Yes, it does, with all the uncertainty that we've been living through the last year and a half, but that is the plan, yes.
Awesome. We also get a lot of questions about whether international students are eligible to apply. Unfortunately, our program is restricted to US citizens or permanent residents. How do I best prepare for interviews? Do any of the fellows have input on that question?
Yeah, I would say that the best way to prepare for interviews is to have a lot of practice interviews. I know this isn't available at every pharmacy school, but a lot of them will offer practice interviews, and I would attend those if you have the opportunity, or ask your professors and friends to interview you.
And like I said earlier, there's about a 5 days time between when you get notified whether you'll be interviewing and then the time of the actual interview week. But those 5 days should definitely not be when you actually start practicing for your interviews. You already know at this point when you're a P4 what your strengths and weaknesses of the CV are. So I know UW, this program is not looking for the perfect health economist coming into the program. Just they're also looking for whether you're willing to learn and whether you're able to soak up all the knowledge that they have to share. So if you're able to communicate honestly what's on your CV, what you're passionate about, and just make that true connection at that interview, I think that's way more valuable than trying to, you know, like script it out or make it something that you aren't.
Definitely, that's good advice. And also the people that you're interviewing with are who you'll be working with. So I think just having that personal connection is kind of nice, and just being relaxed and confident. What should I prioritize when deciding between companies? And kind of related to that is, how much do the different positions vary? I think sometimes students aren't sure, like, if they should just apply for all of our fellowship programs, so for all the different companies, or if they should just pick one. So do any of the panelists have feedback on those 2 points?
I would say that there are a lot of factors to consider, like geography, if you're going to move or not, or how many fellows there are, or, you know, what sorts of expectations there are, how long this fellowship has been around, how much structure you need. I think the best way to figure all those things out is to first just really assess what's important to you and what your next year looks like. And then in addition to that, speaking with us and the first years who are just getting started or have been through it, you know, everyone has different communication styles, has different mentoring and like to be mentored styles. And I think that's super crucial for how you can optimize your learning during the first and second year. So just getting to really know these people and seeing, are these people that I could really learn from, people that I feel safe and can communicate well with, and, you know, I feel like they could really invest in me and just have a really good relationship. I think more than anything at UW, we're all going to the same thing. So I feel like at UW, it's sort of the preceptor that sort of helps to shape your experience. And then second year, it's sort of depending on which fellowship it is, it kind of really depends what you get. But I think that's really it, is your preceptor and who you're going to be learning with, because everything else is the same essentially. So I would just say, get to know us and ask about how our experiences went with our preceptors. And I think that would probably be the best bet. Or also reach out to former fellows as well, and their contacts are probably readily available, and just sort of ask, what was your experience like working with XYZ professors?
I'll add something about geography, because Eunice's note about geography was really important to me when I was applying, and I knew that I wanted to try to stay on the West Coast. And a lot of fellowship programs have a lot of their concentration in the East Coast, particularly in New Jersey. And I think the choice fellowships are a little bit unique in that we do have a lot of West Coast representation. So if that's important to you, this is the place to apply.
I can add to that as well. I applied based on technical area, so that was, or therapeutic area. So that was a large consideration for me. I wanted to work in oncology, and now I work in oncology. Just fine.
Thank you. Pretty basic logistical question. Who should we address our letters of intent to? I also get asked who recommenders should address their letters to. And just something basic, dear selection committee or dear fellowship committee. It doesn't have to be specific, especially now that we're having you apply through the one application. It's pretty much the only way you can do it, because you can only upload one statement of purpose or letter of intent. So it's good to just make it broad. Final question on the slide here is, how can I stand out as a candidate? Which I feel is pretty similar to our first question, but does anyone have anything else to add to that point?
I was just responding to something in the chat that is sort of related to this. You know, if you've completed extra training in addition to, or while you're going through your PharmD program, taking specific courses in the fields that we make part of our training, health economics and outcomes research, health services research, epidemiology, biostatistics, certainly highlight that and any projects that you've done related to those fields, because those are directly applicable to the training you'll go through in our program.
Awesome. Okay, I want to address some of the questions that have come through in the chat. There's one from Jason. In the first year of the fellowship during didactic work, is it feasible for students to work as a pharmacist, like part-time on weekends? Brian?
The first year is pretty fast paced, and completing all the coursework and your thesis in the year is pretty busy. I would ask any of the fellows if they worked as pharmacists on the weekend. I think it's been done. So possible, yes. Recommended, probably not.
Yeah, I think no one in our year did it, but I'd say it's feasible, but you might not enjoy it.
I think you also have to balance, like, if you have extra time outside of the requirements of the master's program, there are so many opportunities for you to partner with professors outside of the curriculum to work on other projects. So yeah, there's definitely the incentive to work as a pharmacist for the, like monetary benefits, but then literally like unparalleled faculty here at UW willing to work on projects with you. So if you have the free time, like if it were up to me, like I would rather spend it working on a cool project with a faculty member.
I want to add to that too. You're probably only going to be living in Seattle if you move here for in-person class for 1 year. And I personally wouldn't want to spend part of my time off in a pharmacy. I'd probably want to be exploring Seattle during that time.
And our fellows are really integrated with all of our choice graduate students. So we have a PhD cohort of about 15, 16 students. And it's been a little different the past 2 years here with the pandemic, but I'd say that there's a lot of opportunity to explore the city, go to happy hour, and just have a good time as a grad student with your cohort and also with other graduate students in the program. So let's see. So a question from, let's see. I'm seeing which ones have been responded to already.
I think I caught most of them. I missed that.
Yeah,
first one about working.
You've been quick in there.
Hey, you get used to it teaching on Zoom for a year.
One thing that I would recommend for anyone that's considering applying is, as far as the application is concerned, since the deadline is about a month away, what you can do now is if you log into your application, like start an application, you can designate your recommenders in there. And as soon as you enter their information, they'll receive an email prompting them to fill out the recommendation. And I'd recommend doing that like today, because then they'll have an entire month to respond to that. You'd be able to submit your application if all of your recommendations aren't in, but it would definitely be in your favor if you have more recommendations in for the committee to review and learn about you as they're considering who to invite for an interview. Question just popped up. During the second year, is 100% of your time dedicated to the sponsor company, or is there a breakdown between sponsor and UW?
Second year is with the sponsor company. You still have a chance to interact with faculty. Like, for example, in the Bayer Fellowship, Gilbert and I meet along with the first year fellow and the team from Bayer. We meet once a month, but you're on site, fully integrated with the team at the sponsor company for the year.
Yeah, I think too, I've noticed that often your MS thesis, you might submit that for publication. So you might continue working with peer UW mentors as you're working on
Oh, for
getting
sure.
that published.
Yeah, we don't shun the second year fellows from interacting with us. Absolutely not. But the expectation is that the sponsor company is going to be keeping you busy, getting you as much experience with your boots on the ground in their different departments, working on projects, getting that real application that you've spent a year earning your thesis or earning your master's degree and completing your thesis, to have those skills so that you can directly apply them.
Okay, is there a typical number of applicants and students interviewed? Should have looked this up beforehand. I want to say, I think we had like 60 or so applicants last year. Does that sound right?
It sounds low.
Yeah, it might have
was
been
maybe a little
more
more
than
than that. Yeah, probably between 60 and 80 applicants. And
Yeah.
I think the number of interviews varies because we have differing numbers of students or applicants who select each of the fellowships. I think for Bayer last year, we probably interviewed around 15. Does that sound right, Gilbert? 10 or 15?
Yeah, I think it's 15 or 20. I think you mentioned that last year.
Yeah, so somewhere in that range. Frankly, it's a lot easier not doing it and having to deal with in-person scheduling at ASHP. So we're a little more flexible with the number of interviews that we can offer doing it online, which is one of the few benefits of the pandemic, I suppose.
Okay, and we have a question in here. Would the fellows be able to share the most rewarding part of their fellowship experience so far?
I could share one thing. I guess maybe the other fellows don't find anything rewarding. I'm just kidding. Besides so the most important thing that for me at least was the relationships that I built during the first year, whether it's with my co-fellows, because you're with a cohort, even though you're not under the same sponsor company, you're in a cohort with 5 other co-fellows. So you really have an opportunity to build bonds and really network sideways in that sense, because you'll eventually move on to be industry peers to one another and have some sort of connection that way, because you were co-fellows in the past. And then besides that, also I found the academic didactic coursework to be very, very rewarding. I didn't think that we would be learning study design and biostatistics to the level that we did. And I feel very proud that nowadays, I read a publication and, when you look at the statistical analysis portion, you read it and it just kind of zoomed over my head in the past, but now I read it and I know exactly what it's saying. So I feel really good about that.
I think that the program was very rewarding for probably all of us. I would say one of my favorite parts about the program, in addition to what TJ contributed, was that I love the relationships that I had with faculty members. I mean, I kid you not, we have HEOR celebrities at our school. I've been at UW for a while. Dr. Ryan Hansen and Dr. Doug Barthold are a few of them, but they just have so much knowledge and experience that you can spend, I don't know, a few nights going through a cost effectiveness book and look up pages and references, but they just know these things because either they came up with it themselves or they just gave a talk on it, or they know somebody who came up with it and say, hey, I can share it with you an email or whatnot. And I think just that closeness to the field and the methodology and just learning what's at the cutting edge is super exciting and makes me feel very proud. I go and introduce myself and say, hey, I'm from UW, I'm from the Choice Institute. And everyone's like, oh, I know this, I know that, I know this person, I did my PhD there. And automatically people are like, okay, you must be legit because you came from UW. And I really love that sort of name that I get to walk around with as well. It brings me a lot of confidence.
I think speaking as a second year fellow, I think what's been rewarding most so far this year in second year is I think kind of being able to apply what I learned all last year to studies now. It's really rewarding to see like comments I make in a study protocol actually get included in the next iteration. So I think that was pretty wild the first time I saw that happen. Like, oh, they actually trust me to actually like add things into the study protocol, you know. I think on a more personal level, I think being at Bayer in New Jersey, where it's, you know, it's like the hub of pharma, is really great to get to know other fellows. I've been to like Merck happy hours. I've been to Daiichi Sankyo happy hours. So it's been really great to get to know like dozens of other fellows on the East Coast.
Well, I haven't seen any other questions come through in the chat. If there's nothing else, I guess, are there any final thoughts for folks to add?
I'll just say, thank you to everyone for attending. Oh, I guess we did have one more slide, didn't we? With our contact information. Put that up. Hang on one second.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So feel free. I think looking through the participant list, some of you have already reached out to us, but please feel free to contact us if anything from tonight was unclear. As the fellow said, reach out to them to get that firsthand experience or to answer burning questions you have about specific industry partners and their experiences there now that they've been embedded within those teams for a few months. And yeah, we look forward to meeting many of you in the interview process, and good luck on your post-PharmD. Well, first, I guess, finishing your PharmD degree, but good luck in wherever your career path takes you. Any other closing remarks from anyone?
I'll just add that I will send out these slides to those who registered, and feel free to contact us with any questions about the application process, and look forward to receiving your applications.
Good luck, everyone. You got this.
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck.